I'm really surprised you chose this company, given you haven't even been to college. Are you mocking us? This is what a college dropout would think.
My name is Ryan Clark, and I just started my sophomore year at college. I'm not particularly involved in any club activities, but I do play basketball and soccer as a substitute in some games. College life has been fulfilling. In addition to sports, I participated in a Spanish speech contest. I was self-taught in Spanish, so it was thrilling to win a prize in that contest. Using my proficiency in Spanish, I aspire to work in international trade in the future. My dad runs a trading company, and he's fluent not only in Spanish but also in Italian and French. I think it's truly amazing to travel to different countries and interact with various people. That's why I respect my dad, who works in such a field, and he is my role model. So, ideally, I'd like to work with my dad in the future. That's what I had been thinking. Given that my dad is the CEO, I think our family is quite well off. We go on a family vacation abroad once a year, and we have a rather large house. My mom's hobby is gardening. Now, our garden has turned into a sort of rose garden, and we've even had magazine interviews a few times. We are a family of four: my parents, me, and my sister Michelle. Michelle is a year younger and attends a different college. She loves singing and dancing, and her dream is to join an opera company. She goes to voice training and ballet classes every week, and now she's planning to take up dance lessons. This fulfilling life collapsed in an instant. It was just before the summer began. My parents were celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary and decided to go on a trip abroad by themselves. Michelle and I saw them off at the front door, never imagining it would be our last conversation as a family. A few days after they left, I received a call that there had been a tragic accident at their vacation spot. The accident was severe enough to be featured in the news. Both of my parents died in that accident. From that day on, my sisters and my life changed dramatically. The most shocking thing was learning that my dad's company was in dire financial straits. We even had to give up the house we had always lived in. There was a period when we had nowhere to live, and we had to stay at our relatives nearby. That's when I truly felt how privileged our previous life had been. After suddenly losing our parents and dealing with inheritance disputes that led to conflicts with our relatives, I was both physically and mentally exhausted. None of the relatives seemed willing to take us in, so I made a decision. I decided to find a place where at least Michelle could live without hardship. Soon after, I met an elderly couple who agreed to take her in. They had known my dad for a long time and had heard a lot about us siblings. The couple, who enjoyed ballroom dancing, took a liking to Michelle, who loved to dance. Until just before she moved in with them, Michelle was concerned about me.
Are you sure you'll be okay alone, Ryan?
"Yeah, I'll be fine. I can manage on my own. Take care." I tried to smile like a big brother should for the last time. Watching her walk away, I truly felt alone. Since then, I've been listless, spending my days just lying in bed. I haven't stepped out of the new apartment I rented. I was recognized for my excellent grades at school, and I was about to start the process to become a scholarship student, which would cover my tuition. What was I going to do at school now? With my parents gone, My desire to work in international trade had faded. I just couldn't muster the energy to be active like before. After receiving several concerned calls, I decided to inform my teacher that I intended to drop out. The teacher said, "Why don't you take a leave of absence and come back when you're ready?" But that kind of kindness felt burdensome to me at the moment.
Ryan, are you there?
It was right after I dropped out of college. My uncle came to visit me at the apartment I was living in. He runs a factory with his wife, and they had let my sister and me stay with them until recently. "Thank you for everything," I said, expressing my gratitude for giving us a place to live.
We help each other out in tough times. I heard from your school teacher, though. Is it true you want to drop out?
Yes, after thinking it over, I feel it's pointless to go to school without a clear goal.
How about working at our factory then? It's not much pay, but it's better than doing nothing.
My uncle suggested it to me. "Thank you. Please let me work for you," I replied, deciding to try something new and work at my uncle's factory. "Dad and Mom, I'm home," I would say to my parents' photos when I returned home. This has become my routine. In front of the photos was my dad's wristwatch, a keepsake. It's been 10 years since I started working for my uncle. The pay hasn't increased much, but having a job is something I'm grateful for, considering I dropped out of college. My weekdays are spent traveling between home and the factory, and on Fridays, it has become routine to stop by the grocery store on my way home from work. I placed the baked sweets I bought in front of my parents' photos. Sweet treats were all I could afford for my parents, who loved sweets. I can't spend much on food expenses. That's my reality. After finishing my shower and dinner, I spend the time before bed playing online games on my computer. I can play games because my uncle gave me this computer. It's an older model, but I'm happy it can still run games. Online gaming connects me not just with America, but with the whole world. And since it's a game, we don't know each other's faces. That's why I can talk freely. These days, the only casual conversations I have with people my age happen in these online games. Most of my colleagues at the factory are older, and I've lost touch with my college friends. It's fine not having friends around. Life isn't easy, but being able to get by is enough for me. That's what I thought. But even those modest thoughts were shattered by an incident. It happened during the morning assembly at the factory before work started.
Next month, this factory will be closing. I'm truly sorry, everyone.
My uncle announced, causing a stir among the employees. As the CEO, my uncle explained the reasons behind the financial difficulties and that the factory could no longer keep up with production. Everyone working here would lose their jobs next month. That night, I talked about today's events in an online game. The person who listens to me is Christopher, who is the same age as me. We've known each other since I started playing online games, and together we've gone treasure hunting and battled bosses. He says his name is his real one, but I don't know where Christopher lives or what he does for work. Still, we often have these casual chats.
What will you do now?
Of course, I'll look for another job. I dropped out of college, so honestly, not many companies might hire me.
Then you might want to try this company. Why not apply once?
Christopher suggested, showing me the homepage of a company. It's an IT company, now gaining recognition for its app development. Sometimes, I even see commercials for this company on TV. Thanks, but I want to try a bit harder on my own, I replied, politely declining while expressing gratitude.
All right. Hit me up when you feel like it.
I told him that job hunting might keep me busy, so I might not be able to play online games for a while. Job hunting was as tough as I expected. Even when I managed to get an interview, I was often rejected outright after they glanced at my resume or told to leave because I had no qualifications and couldn't be an immediate asset. I regretted not taking the many opportunities to earn certifications in the 10 years since I left college. When I got home, I started browsing job listings on my computer. If I found a job that seemed like a good fit, I applied even if the workplace was a bit far from here. After browsing through the job listings, I noticed a message from Christopher. He was suggesting I apply for a job at the company he had mentioned the other day. The second invitation made me waver. I glanced at my parents' photo on the dresser. My eyes settled on my dad's wristwatch, a keepsake.
Ryan, the important thing is to never give up and keep moving forward.
My dad's words echoed in my memory. That's because when I was little, I cried in frustration because I couldn't do cartwheels.
But I practiced so many times. I still can't do it.
As I cried hard, he gently patted my head.
When that happens, try asking someone for help. You're a hard worker, Ryan, and you'll get it right away if someone teaches you.
Really?
Sure.
He said confidently, which made me laugh despite my tears.
Then, Dad, teach me how to do cartwheel.
My dad nodded deeply to my request. With just one piece of advice, I was able to do the cartwheel effortlessly. When I succeeded, my dad praised me a lot. Thanks, Dad. I murmured to the photo of my parents. It felt like I had received a hint from those nostalgic memories. That night, I researched the company Christopher recommended until late. It was located in a prime urban area, and I took a high-speed elevator to the floor where the interview was to take place. I was nervous but excited to see how far I could go with the interviewer. When I gave my name at the reception, a woman came from the back door.
Ryan Clark, right? Please come in.
I was led to a lounge and told to sit and wait. As the woman left, a man entered. It seemed he was the interviewer. His cheeks were gaunt, and his eyes were sharp and narrow. He had a meticulous or perhaps a bit neurotic aura.
Well, you are Ryan, right?
He sat carelessly on the sofa, crossing his legs and looking over the resume I had sent ahead. I felt something off about his demeanor, but I stood up to introduce myself. Yes, I'm Ryan Clark. Thank you for taking the time.
We don't need that. It's a waste of time. Let's get started quickly. Sit down. Every minute is precious.
I was cut off mid-thanks for the interview opportunity. He must be strict with time, I thought, and waited for him to speak. Come to think of it, I didn't ask for the interviewer's name. I realized the interview had started without knowing his name.
Hey, this isn't a mistake, right? You left this prestigious college in your sophomore year?
Just as you said, I left in the middle of my sophomore year. The interviewer's eyebrows twitched at my reply.
I see. Well then, there's nothing to talk about with you.
My resume was roughly placed on the table in front of me.
I really wonder why you chose this company.
He said, a question I've been asked many times during this job search. Usually, I would say it was because I was attracted to the job description, but today was different. I wanted to talk about various aspects of the job, but the atmosphere didn't seem right. Still, I decided to mention that I was proficient in Spanish. I am proficient in Spanish.
No college degree, no qualifications, and no achievements listed. Also, dropping out of college means you probably couldn't keep up academically, right?
He interrupted, suggesting that my academic abilities were the reason I left school. I decided to answer honestly. I dropped out because my parents died in an accident.
You've been caught trying to gain sympathy by saying that. Your parents must be very disappointed. After all, using your parents' situation as leverage in an interview is just what someone who dropped out of college would think of.
I was stunned by his laughter. Why was I being treated this way? Should I have just graduated from college even after losing my direction? Would that have spared me from such insults? I had many thoughts, but the accusation of using my parents hurt me deeply. That's enough. I'm leaving. As I was about to stand up, the woman who had shown me into this room earlier came in.
David, what are you doing? I only told you to place the resume on the table.
Facing a woman with a fierce demeanor, the interviewer named David remained nonchalant.
Anne seems busy, so I decided to conduct the interview. Is there a problem?
His tone was prickly.
There's no need for you to take matters into your own hands. Please step down.
At Anne's words, David's face turned bright red.
Just because you're from a low-ranked college and happen to have good sales figures doesn't mean you can talk down to me. And this guy, he's the boss's favorite, isn't he? Why would you even consider hiring such a low life?
Oh, I see. He doesn't like Anne's educational background, plus she has better performance than David. Maybe Anne is actually David's superior. In this tense moment, they refer to me dismissively. Which one of us is really at the bottom?
I've heard enough. The one who doesn't understand isn't Ryan or Anne. It's you.
A young man who entered through the open door. And his voice sounded familiar.
The fact that sales performance and the college a new hire attended are your only criteria tells me a lot.
No, that's not what I meant.
David faltered. This young man was definitely the boss. David looked visibly intimidated.
I have some things to ask David later, so please wait at your desk until I call for you.
Yes, sir.
David hurried out of the room. Anne, watching this, whispered quietly,
I wonder what will happen to him tomorrow. He's really upsetting the boss. Probably won't have a desk in a few days.
"What?" I involuntarily raised my voice at what Anne had said. It was because she spoke so rapidly in Spanish.
Oh, you really are excellent, just as the information said.
Anne smiled at me. What does she mean by prior information?
Ryan, welcome to our company.
The words confirmed it. It was Christopher who had recommended this company. I was really surprised to find out Christopher was the president of the company. I said as I introduced myself again. He told me his full name was Christopher Smith.
I felt you wouldn't come here if I said I was the president.
Indeed, that might be true. I decided to ask him something that had been on my mind. Why did you want me for this company?
I knew you were very good at Spanish from our online gaming days. But Ryan, your ability to communicate in Spanish is really impressive. After the Diego incident, I felt those were the skills we needed in this company.
Diego is a mutual friend of Christopher and me from our online gaming days. He is Spanish and has always talked about wanting to come to America. He did make it to America, but during his trip, he got lost. It was a place I frequented during my college days, so I had a good idea where Diego might have gotten lost. I had Diego join a voice chat, and I guided him safely to his destination. I remember Christopher being part of that chat. That was just because I knew the way.
Maybe so, but being able to explain so precisely was impressive. And I thought I'd like to poach Ryan if possible.
I blushed at his words.
You seemed okay recently, but up until a short while ago, you seemed to have lost your way and lacked confidence. But I always believed you would bounce back.
His words strangely resonated with me. Christopher then took glasses out of his breast pocket and pushed back his hair.
People say I look quite different now, so many don't recognize me.
Is that so? It was Christopher. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. He was a classmate from my sophomore year of college, likely a member of the basketball team. Christopher had an androgynous face and used glasses to cover up back then. Despite his intentions, he was often mistaken for a girl. I thought he didn't need the glasses at all, but it seemed he was quite self-conscious about it.
I get that a lot, so it's fine. But I'm really happy to be able to talk with Ryan like this.
Thanks for saying that. I really feel bad because I ran away from school and quit without talking to anyone. Thinking back on my college days was painful, yet now they seemed nostalgic. It felt like I had overcome something.
The class really missed you and was reflecting on it.
Reflecting? Why? I asked, puzzled by his words.
Because we only knew the cheerful Ryan, seeing you so down was unsettling. We didn't know how to approach you, and before we knew it, you had quit.
I hadn't realized the class felt that way. My throat tightened and my eyes grew warm.
That's why I wanted to be there for you next time, and I was sure Ryan would regain his original cheerfulness.
Thank you for thinking that way. Anne silently offered me a tissue box from the side. Oh, may I have one? I said as tears almost spilled over, and I wiped them with it. Then I straightened up, looked at Christopher. Christopher, please let me work at this company.
Of course. I'm looking forward to it.
And so, my employment at my former classmate Christopher's company was decided.
Today is just the first day, so let's wrap up with just an orientation.
That was Anne speaking. She explains about the company while we walk through the office corridors. Despite wearing heels almost as high as stilettos, her pace was incredibly fast. I wondered if I was the only one who thought that was impressive. Anne will be my mentor for a while. I'm set to be rigorously trained for the next month.
Come in here. There's someone I want you to meet.
I wondered who it could be. It was my first day at work, and I was quite nervous. As I entered the room, a woman with long hair stood there, looking somewhat downcast, and dressed not in a business suit, but in a dress, which made me curious about who she might be.
Oh my God, big brother.
Hearing those words, I was taken aback. Only one person calls me that. Surprised yet touched, my sister Michelle suddenly hugged me, and I gently stroked her head. I'm sorry for not contacting you until now. It was a decision made after discussing with the elderly couple who had taken her in. To keep our resolve to live separately, we decided it was better not to meet.
It's okay. Grandpa and Grandma told me about it. I always believed we would meet again someday.
That's good. I'm also glad to see you. Thinking she had kept faith in such an unworthy brother pained my heart. I should visit the elderly couple who took in Michelle soon to express my thanks. Seeing her all grown up filled me with gratitude.
After our parents passed away, I knew your heart was shattered, and I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. I really could only watch.
I felt embarrassed that she knew how broken I had been. Anne, who was standing next to us, caught my eye as Michelle hugged me tighter.
See, your brother is getting flustered.
Anne said with a chuckle. Michelle quickly stepped back. You know each other?
Yes, we went to the same university. I've always heard about you from her. Almost enough to grow tired of it.
My sister is 1 year younger than me. That means Anne is also younger than me. What exactly has Michelle been telling Anne? Anne's warm gaze made the situation slightly uncomfortable.
Well, I only say things that would put you in a positive light. Like how confident he is that he wouldn't lose to anyone in a Spanish argument.
I may have said that, but don't tell others. It's incredibly embarrassing. Of all people, it had to be Anne, my colleague at the company, who found out. If only I could hide in a hole.
Indeed, your Spanish is excellent, just as we had heard beforehand.
Anne continued, recalling the interview. That rapid Spanish was a test, wasn't it?
That's right. Not many Americans could follow that pace.
It seems Anne would also be a formidable opponent in a Spanish argument.
I'll go talk to Christopher and report that I met my brother, then I'll head back. See you later, Ryan.
Michelle said with a smile, waving as she left the room. Anne didn't say anything, but it seems she and Christopher are seeing each other. The elderly couple's house where Michelle had been taken in is quite far from here. I had thought it was a long-distance relationship, but since the elderly couple moved into a nursing home, she has returned to the city. Next, I was shown to my desk. I greeted everyone around, noticing that David, who had posed as the interviewer, was nowhere to be seen. Later, Anne told me that David had been fired shortly after. So, the seat I was now occupying was, in fact, David's former seat. Lately, I've been hanging out a lot with Christopher, Michelle, and Anne. We had been busy with a major project, so today we came to the amusement park for some relaxation. Since the roller coaster seats two, it was Christopher and Michelle, and me and Anne. Anne, please watch your step, I said as I got into the ride first, offering my hand to help her sit comfortably. For a moment, Anne seemed reluctant, but then she took my hand and sat down.
From now on, you don't need polite language when we are just the two of us,
she said, then quickly turned her face away. I wondered if her ears turning red was just my imagination. It looks like I will be able to enjoy fulfilling days, not just at work, but in my private life as well.